Academy, where brains go to broadcast.
Welcome, curious minds, to Cascademy. You're anything like me, your day is just this constant stream of information, right? You got articles, emails, reports, social media posts. It's a lot. And sometimes, honestly, it feels like we're just trying to keep our heads above water. But what if there was a way to not just survive this information flood, but to actually master it? Today, we're unlocking a really powerful skill. It doesn't just help you read faster or, find the main points. It fundamentally shifts how you interact with every piece of text. We're talking about active and critical reading. Okay, let's unpack this and really see how it can transform how we learn.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here, and truly transformative, I think, is that this isn't about passively consuming words. It's really about actively creating new meaning, new knowledge.
Creating it.
Exactly. Think of it like you're not just a sponge soaking up information, right? You're more like a sculptor shaping a new understanding from the material.
I like that metaphor.
And this approach is just absolutely fundamental to learning, to research, and really to communicating effectively, no matter what your field is. And it stretches way beyond just books or articles, too. It applies to understanding interviews, deciphering photographs, interpreting cultural artifacts, basically anything you want to understand deeply.
Anything you interpret.
Right. It makes you see reading and writing not as these separate tasks, but, well, as two sides of the same coin in this continuous process of learning and making meaning.
The sculptor, not the sponge. I love that image. Okay, so let's start by maybe looking at your habits, because you probably read a lot more than you even realize.
Oh, definitely.
Textbooks, articles, sure, but also emails, even a quick glance at a grocery list or a road sign. It all counts. But do you read everything the same way? Let's try a little mental exercise. Think about maybe, 3 or 4 things you've read in the last week. What was your purpose for each one? Were you reading for quick info, like checking a recipe, or pure pleasure, like a novel? Maybe trying to solve a problem at work or cramming for a test.
Yeah, the purpose changes everything.
It really does. And here's the kicker.
Hmm.
How did that purpose change your strategy? Did you skim? Did you furiously take notes? Did you try to memorize every single detail or just casually browse? And think about this too. Did any of those texts feel, boring or just unnecessarily tiring? And if it did, why? Ultimately, what did you do with the information you gathered? Did you apply it practically, like fixing something? Or were you aiming for a truly deeper understanding? This little exercise, it often highlights a core truth. Our reading strategies are incredibly varied, and they naturally adapt to the task at hand.
It's so true. Different situations absolutely demand different approaches. Sometimes efficiency, like quickly scanning for main points, that's all you need.
Yeah.
But the kind of reading that underpins strong writing and robust research and genuinely deep learning, that's what we call critical reading.
Critical reading. Okay.
And this critical approach, it isn't just about comprehension, like understanding the words. It's what empowers you to engage with the material so thoroughly that you can then create your own rhetorically effective and impactful texts.
So if we're moving beyond just skimming or basic comprehension, what does critical reading actually feel like? What are its key features?
Well, the big idea, I think, is that critical readers don't just sit back passively, waiting for meaning to be delivered to them on a plate.
Right.
They actively create it through a kind of lively interaction with the text.
Interaction. Okay, I came across this incredible quote that seems to sum it up perfectly. It goes something like, reading involves a fair measure of push and shove. You make your mark on the book, and it makes its mark on you.
Push and shove. I like that.
Yeah. It continues. The pages before you will begin to speak only when the authors are silent and you begin to speak in their place, sometimes for them and sometimes for yourself, following your own agenda. It really clarifies that meaning isn't just received from the page. It's a dynamic two-way process. Like your textbook isn't some sacred scroll to be revered, maybe more like a wrestling partner to spar with.
That quote is absolutely spot on. Critical readers interact by constantly questioning, responding, even expanding upon text, very often in writing.
Right, the writing part seems key.
It is. They bring their personal experiences and their existing knowledge to bear on the material. They also actively seek out other related texts, sometimes seemingly unrelated ones, actually, to broaden their understanding and make connections. And this really challenges a very common assumption many of us were probably taught in school, that texts, especially those authoritative ones like textbooks, contain absolute predetermined truths.
Yeah, the idea that if it's printed, it must be true.
Exactly. We were often conditioned to believe that anything printed is factual and, well, unquestionable, but that's a really passive approach. Treating text as unquestionable truth often leads to what we might call reading as consumption. Think of it like just swallowing information whole without chewing or tasting it.
Not really digesting it.
Precisely. It inhibits the creation of new ideas and really hinders independent learning. This raises an important question for all of us, I think.
Right.
How do we move beyond simply consuming information and start actively, genuinely engaging with it?
Well, it sounds like it's about shifting your mindset, fundamentally. You, the reader, you become a collaborator with the writer, an active participant in actually constructing the meaning of every text you encounter.
That's a great way to put it. Collaboration.
And it's truly empowering, isn't it, to realize that even what we consider definitive works aren't static. They're open to questioning, to interpretation, and they can actually evolve over time as new perspectives emerge.
Absolutely. And this leads us into something really profound, often called the rhetorical theory of reading.
Rhetorical theory. Okay, tell me more.
Forget just the facts. What if every text you read, from, say, a news article to a complex scientific paper, is subtly trying to convince you of something?
Persuasion, not just information.
Exactly. That's the core of rhetorical reading. Understanding how texts persuade even when they seem to be just presenting information. This theory suggests that reading isn't just about transmitting information, like pouring facts from the page into your head. It's fundamentally about persuasion. As one scholar wisely put it, knowledge is what one believes, what one accepts as being at least provisionally true.
Provisionally true. Interesting.
Yes, and this distinction between information and knowledge is just vital. Simply reading for main points might fill your head with information, like a list of facts, but it doesn't necessarily make you believe it or truly know it in a way that shifts your perspective.
So information is facts, knowledge is belief, or something like that.
In a sense, yes. True knowledge, in this rhetorical view, updates your entire belief system. It changes how you see the world. And this really highlights how individual interpretation plays such a huge role. The same text can have radically different meanings and persuasive effects on different people. Why? Because of their unique personal beliefs, assumptions, and pre-existing knowledge.
That's right. We all bring our own baggage, so to speak.
Precisely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, when we read, we're not just passively taking in ideas, we're actively updating our view of the world every single time.
And that update, as you call it, it isn't happening on a blank slate, is it? We all bring what some call a repertoire of experience to every new text we encounter.
Explain that a bit more. Repertoire of experience.
You think of your brain as this unique, constantly growing library. It's filled with every book you've ever read, every conversation you've had, every lesson you've learned, every experience. So every new text you encounter, it walks into that specific library, not some empty room.
Yeah.
Your prior knowledge, your opinions, they all act as a kind of filter, influencing what you accept and how you interpret things.
Okay, that makes sense. It's the context we bring.
Exactly. And this isn't about, deliberately resisting new ideas. It's just about recognizing that reading is an ongoing dynamic interaction between the text's ideas and your own. And a lot of this happens subconsciously. Applying this to research, then, it means that research itself is an ongoing conversation, not just stringing together summaries of sources.
Definitely not just summaries.
It means realizing that no source is truly unbiased. Every writer has reasons, motivations for their claims, and critical readers need to understand and evaluate those reasons. It even means, maybe controversially, that our feelings, when used judiciously and reflected upon, can be valid reasons for a belief. And finally, research is recursive. It's not a straight line.
Recursive, meaning it circles back.
Exactly. You might discover a new question halfway through your reading that sends you back to earlier sources, or even pushes you to find entirely new ones. You're continually circling back, deepening, expanding your understanding. It's never truly finished.
That's a great point. It's a process, not a destination. And another defining trait of active critical readers is their unwavering willingness to seek out connections between texts, between ideas, even seemingly disparate ones.
Okay, like connecting the dots.
Precisely. I've often seen students, for example, hit a roadblock when they're investigating a very specific local problem, let's say a campus diversity issue. They start by looking for local data, interviewing people on campus. They gather statistics, perspectives specific to their university, which is good, but then they struggle. They can't find more sources that directly address their specific local problem.
Yeah, that's a classic research dilemma, isn't it? You've got all this great specific information, but how do you broaden your understanding or find models for solutions if nothing else seems directly relevant.
Exactly the problem. And the solution isn't usually to just keep digging for more hyper-local sources. It's often to generalize the problem.
Generalize. How so?
They need to start looking at, say, diversity as a national issue, maybe even a global one. This allows them to understand the deeper roots of the problem, see how it's being addressed elsewhere, and find broader solutions or frameworks that might then inform their local proposals. It's about seeing the forest, not just that one particular tree.
Right, stepping back to see the bigger pattern.
Precisely. Here's another really compelling example I remember. A student was writing about discipline and sacrifice in collegiate sports. Rigorous training, demanding schedules, all that.
Okay, yeah, pretty standard topic.
Right, but then this student found unexpected, powerful connections in Michel Foucault's Discipline and Punish, which is, a dense academic study of the history of the penitentiary system.
Wow, okay, that's quite a leap. From college athletes to prisons, what was the connection? What was the aha moment there?
The aha was realizing that Foucault's concepts, ideas about discipline, surveillance, the shaping of bodies within institutions, weren't just about prisons. They offered this profound new lens through which to view the rigorous training, the strict schedules, even the self-monitoring that student athletes experience.
That's fascinating. So the underlying principles were similar.
Exactly. It just shows that even seemingly unrelated texts can illuminate aspects of our own lives, our own research, but it requires creative interpretation. You have to move beyond just comparing simple facts and start connecting the underlying ideas and concepts.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about active reading as interaction, as connection making. How does this then connect back explicitly to writing? Because you said earlier they're like two sides of the same coin.
Inextricably linked, yes.
If critical reading is about interaction, not just passive consumption, then I imagine a key distinction emerges in how we respond to texts. Maybe the difference between simply reacting versus truly responding.
That's a critical distinction to grasp, absolutely. Reacting to a text is often emotional, quick, and frankly shallow.
Like a knee-jerk reaction.
Exactly. It's what happens when we just dismiss ideas we disagree with out of hand. We just say, nope, wrong. It creates this wall of disagreement, a kind of yes-no binary, and it doesn't move us any closer to actually understanding the other perspective or even our own position fully.
Right, it shuts down the conversation.
Precisely. Responding, on the other hand, demands careful study and real intellectual engagement. To respond thoughtfully to a controversial text, for instance, a critical reader doesn't just read it once and fire off an opinion.
What do they do instead?
Well, they read it multiple times, they take notes, they ask questions right there in the margins, they underline key passages or things that puzzle them. They thoughtfully consider why the author holds different views, looking maybe at their potential agenda, their social, political, or religious context, what motivated them. They'd also consider the author's purpose and intended audience. Maybe even research the history of the argument itself. How does the text's original context compare to their own here and now? And crucially, they'd reflect on how their own prior knowledge and experiences might be influencing how they receive the argument.
So it's a much deeper, more self-aware process.
Much deeper. All these steps move you from just a gut reaction to an informed, nuanced, and genuinely thoughtful response.
And that's where critical readers resist those oversimplified agree or disagree labels, those binary responses. The world of ideas is just far too complex for that, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So when you're asked to critique a text, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to criticize it or reject it wholesale.
Not at all.
It means you're being asked to carefully evaluate and analyze the text's ideas, to understand how and why the arguments are constructed before you develop your own nuanced perspective on it.
Let's make this really concrete with an example. Imagine two students responding to Martin Luther King Jr.'s incredibly powerful letter from Birmingham jail, where he's responding to criticism from fellow clergymen.
Okay, classic text.
Right. Student A summarizes the letter, says it's powerful and rhetorically effective, maybe pulls a quote or two, but doesn't really show how or why. It's basically a surface-level agreement. Yeah, King was great.
Okay, kind of phoning it in.
A bit. Now, student B, engaging critically, analyzes specific rhetorical moves. They might notice how King's opening address, "My dear fellow clergymen," immediately sets this tone of inclusion, presenting himself as a colleague to build trust, implying a broader concern for everyone, not just himself.
Analyzing the strategy.
Exactly. Student B might also question why King delays his main thesis statement, holding back his core argument for several paragraphs, and after reflecting, maybe connecting it to class concepts, they realize it's a deliberate, strategic move to prepare a potentially hostile audience, to warm them up before hitting them with his powerful claims. So this raises an important question for you, listening. Which response shows deeper understanding? Which one truly avoids that simple binary thinking?
Well, clearly, student B.
Right. Student B demonstrates real engagement, nuance, and importantly, a readiness to potentially apply these kinds of rhetorical strategies in their own writing. They learn something applicable.
That's a stark difference, yeah. And it really drives home how much more you get out of that active engagement. Which brings us to maybe a common misconception. Many of us, myself included, were taught to read silently alone, often just summarizing to pass the test.
The classic book report model.
Exactly. I certainly did that throughout high school and probably most of college, just trying to get the main points down so I could ace the exam. But the critical approach suggests something very different, doesn't it? Active readers don't read in silence. They read with a pen in hand, and ideally, they discuss with others.
Exactly right. If you want to become a critical reader, you really need to get into the habit of writing as you read. It's not optional, it's central. And complex texts, the ones really worth wrestling with, almost always require multiple readings. The first time through might just be for general understanding, getting acquainted with the main ideas, the structure, the author's style.
Getting the lay of the land.
Precisely. But during subsequent readings, you need to write and write a lot. So here are a few powerful practical tools you can start using today to really connect your reading and writing. First, underline. Underline interesting and important places in the text. Don't be afraid to get messy with it. Highlight key arguments, evidence that supports them, or just passages that stand out to you or confuse you. Your marks might be totally different from your classmates, and that's actually the essence of critical reading. It's your interpretation taking shape.
Okay, so permission to mark up the book.
Absolutely. Second, take notes in the margins. This is crucial. Ask questions as they occur to you. Write down points where you agree or disagree strongly. Offer counter evidence from your own knowledge or other readings. Note connections to other texts or even linked passages to your personal experiences. This marginalia, this is where that active meaning-making truly happens. Writing about what you read helps you create your own interpretations, which is far more valuable than just remembering the author's argument.
Talking back to the text, essentially.
Exactly. Third, write exploratory responses. These are often informal, maybe 1 or 2 pages, reflections that let you delve deeper. They allow you to really talk back to the text in a more extended way, make connections, and importantly, resist quick conclusions or easy answers. The goal here is exploration, not a finished, polished argument.
So low-stakes writing, just to think.
Precisely. Don't be afraid to take different directions or leave questions unanswered. In fact, a lack of neat closure and the presence of more leads or new questions at the end is often a really good sign. It means you're thinking.
Okay, that takes the pressure off.
It should. Fourth, use reading for invention. Go back to your readings, your underlines, your margin notes, and especially those exploratory responses. Mine them to find topics and fresh ideas for your own writing projects. And always look at the references or bibliography in the text you read. They're treasure troves for further research leads. It's like a built-in guide to the conversation.
Following in the breadcrumbs.
Exactly. Fifth, try keeping a double entry journal. This is a fantastic technique. Divide a page into 2 columns. In the left column, write down interesting quotes or summaries from the text, the what it says part. In the right column, write your questions, your responses, your interpretations, your connections, the what I think about it part. This structure is incredibly powerful for bridging simple summary to original analysis.
Oh, I love that. Left side text, right side my thoughts. That seems really concrete. I wish I'd known about that back in college. It feels like it really forces that active engagement we've been talking about.
It really does. And finally, maybe the most important strategy, don't give up. If a text seems really complex or dense or even initially boring, it often just means you haven't engaged aggressively enough yet.
So lean into the difficulty.
Yes. Complex texts, paradoxically, often offer the most interesting and rewarding ideas once you crack them open. And critical reading is truly liberating because you don't have to worry constantly about getting it right in some absolute teacher-pleasing sense. As long as you make a genuine effort to engage, to wrestle with the text and work hard on creating meaning, your interpretation will be valid.
As long as it's persuasive.
Exactly. Provided it's persuasive both to yourself and, if necessary, to others. And that persuasion comes from that deep engagement, from using your personal experience thoughtfully, and from offering well-supported insights drawn from the text and your interaction with it.
Okay, to really bring all of this to life, let's look at a quick case study. We heard about Alex, a student who apparently completely transformed his reading habits.
Yes, Alex is a great example.
His initial approach was what he himself called minimalism, just skimming for the bare main points, delivering pretty shallow interpretations, basically just doing enough to get the grade. He admitted he wasn't truly engaging with the material at all.
Right, and Alex's shift was really profound. He described learning to dissect the meaning and see why the writer is using certain techniques or how the reading applies to my life. That connection piece was key for him.
So what strategies did he develop? What did that look like in practice?
Well, he started setting aside dedicated, unhurried time just for reading, no multitasking. He made a point of reading texts several times to really become comfortable with the prose and the ideas. And crucially, he started actively discussing the readings with classmates and his teachers to gain different perspectives and catch important details he might have missed on his own.
That collaborative aspect again. And how did this new approach play out in his own writing?
It made a huge difference. For one essay, Alex read Adrienne Rich's famous piece, When We Dead Awaken, which deals with the idea of revising one's life, one's understanding of the past. Alex made this really insightful connection between Rich's struggle with this concept of revision and his own personal experience of navigating liberalism while living in very conservative environments. He used direct quotes from Rich not just as evidence, but to illustrate and deepen his own personal story, showing the connection rather than just telling us it existed.
Wow, so using the text to eliminate his own life.
Precisely. And his writing process reflected this engagement. It started with brainstorming, getting all ideas down, coherent and incoherent. Then he'd reread Rich, specifically looking for passages that really spoke to his own narrative. Only after that deep engagement did he focus on refining the style and mechanics of his essay.
Alex's advice for new critical readers seems to really sum it all up perfectly, and I think it's a brilliant capstone for our discussion today.
What did he advise?
He said, find something in a text that genuinely interests you or bothers you or just confuses you. Use that feeling as your analytical engine, your drive to dig deeper. He says, and I absolutely love this line, there is no such thing as a boring essay, only a boring reader.
Ooh, that's a powerful statement. Puts the responsibility on us.
It does. He also emphasizes reading everything at least twice. Once just for comfort, to get the lay of the land, and then again specifically for deeper understanding. He insists you truly can't read something too many times. And maybe most importantly, always ask questions, constantly, and write them down so you don't lose those crucial sparks of critical thought.
Those are powerful words, truly, and they point to the ultimate goal here. Reading and writing are rhetorical processes, they're thinking processes, and they are inextricably linked. Good writing invites dialogue, and critical reading is how we participate meaningfully in that dialogue.
It's about joining the conversation.
Exactly. And the real power here, I believe, lies in moving beyond simply having opinions which are often fixed, maybe unexamined, and can hinder collaboration to developing actual ideas. Ideas are fluid, they evolve, they're shaped by interaction with texts and with others. They invite growth both for ourselves and in conversation.
So, thinking about our listeners, what does this all mean for you? It really means you have the power to transform how you engage with the tidal wave of information out there. It means becoming a more effective learner, a more impactful writer, and honestly, just a much sharper, more nuanced thinker. As Alex so wisely put it, being able to read critically is important no matter what you plan on doing with your career or life, because it allows you to understand the world around you. It allows you to build your own understanding, to challenge assumptions, to connect ideas, and ultimately to grow. Thank you so much for joining us on Cascademy today. Keep reading, keep questioning, and keep creating meaning.
Cascademy, where brains go to broadcast. Cascademy, knowledge speaks, tuition sleeps.